Hey, good morning, guys. It is March 1st. Wow. We're into March. And Chambers is dealing with John chapter 21. This is when Jesus has. It's interesting, a couple things that stood out to me in today's study. That Jesus is, first of all, appears to his disciples a few times after his resurrection. And as he does, he doesn't stay with them. He's doing other things, which is really interesting. And this could be, it's funny because I think there was is it the Book of Mormon or something talks about Jesus visiting other places after his resurrection. But anyway, all that said, sorry, that's not to be too much of a tangent there, but he is addressing Peter in this particular one. This is where he shows up on the shore. The disciples are fishing. He does the whole cast your nets on the other side. They catch a big catch. They come in and he has fixed bread for them and has a fire going and says, let's eat breakfast together. And he says to Peter, "Do you love me?" And Greek scholars will tell you that he uses three different kinds of love here, and he basically starts with the deepest, most sincere and sacrificial form of love, agape, and then and comes down to almost like a brotherly love, and says, "Peter, do you love me?" And then he says, "Feed my lambs." "Peter, do you love me?" And every time Peter says, "You know I love you." And he says, "Take care of my sheep." And the third time he says, "Do you love me?" And Peter says, "You know all things. You know that I love you." And this Chambers is kind of dealing with this, kind of being truthful with God, and what happens when we are addressed with the question of, do we truly love him, and how are we going to express that? And Peter, to this point, his last declaration, which Chambers deals with here, his last declaration in Matthew was, "I will never disown you. Even if it comes to the point of death, I would not disown you." That's even if everyone else falls away, I will not. And Peter, that very night, actually breaks that commitment, that promise. And so Jesus, this is kind of this what they would call the restoration or reinstatement of Peter. Jesus is kind of saying, Peter, I know you professed this in the past, and I just want you to know, first of all, that your failure has not disqualified you from showing your love or confessing me. And it's an interesting thing what Chambers deals with here. He says, "Whoever shall confess me before men," in the end of this first paragraph, i.e. confess his love not merely by words but by everything he does. Confession is more than just lip service. Jesus does not need or want our lip service, and that's an interesting thing too that sometimes we get wrong in the sinner's prayer. We lead someone in the sinner's prayer. We confess with our mouth, believe in our heart, and what Chambers is saying is it's not just with our mouth. We need to confess and confess continually. But here's kind of Chambers gets to the point of it at close to the end. There's no possibility of being sentimental with the Lord's question, "Do you love me?" You cannot say nice things when the Lord speaks directly to you. The hurt is too terrific. So for Peter, Jesus is kind of dealing with his betrayal of Jesus. Not betrayal, but his denial of Jesus. And he's basically saying to Peter, "Hey, listen, Peter, I'm saying this to you because first of all, I just want you to understand who you are. And secondly, I want you to understand that you're not disqualified from confessing me." And then he even says to Peter in this same passage, he says to Peter, "You will, you will, when you were young, you dressed yourself. When you're old, they will stretch out your arms and someone else will dress you." And he's talking about how Peter will die. He dies crucified upside down, is what Peter does. And so that is the confession. That is the love. The point of Peter giving all, not just saying it, not just giving lip service to it. And so one thing I want to kind of point out is that confession of Christ is not lip service. It is confessing with our actions, confessing with our motivations. It is, yeah, it's something that goes beyond just a statement. I think it's the reason why Jesus asked three times. He asked three times because he wanted to show Peter it wasn't just what Peter said, because last time Peter said something, something very different was the result of it. But the encouragement to me is is that Jesus understands us. He understands our weaknesses, but he still calls us to confess him. He still calls us to say, yes, I love you, in whatever shallow way we can say it. He still calls us to say it, and then asks us to lay down our lives. And then it's interesting, Peter, one last thing. Peter says, hey, what about John? What about John? Jesus, you can go back and read John 21. He says, don't worry about John. I'll worry about John. Don't you worry about him. Anyway, even in Peter's revelation, he still is looking at other people. So you guys have a great day.